Well, hello. It is slightly delayed Pittsburgh Hockey Now, Pittsburgh or National Hockey Now, live Pittsburgh Penguins post-game show here from the private studios. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski. The Penguins tonight beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 2-0, and I know nobody's here yet because I just had to create a brand new stream. I never understand YouTube. You schedule a stream, it's like, oh, yeah, we see you scheduled it, but we also want connect something else. You're like, just let me go up with my laptop. So you have to like do the whole thing live. So no one has actually found the stream yet. 30 seconds in, what a surprise! Let me. I have to actually share this real quickly so that somebody knows we're actually live. Here we go. And if I could actually ever type. Okay, now I get to share it to Facebook as well. Eventually. Okay. So this is always frustrating. YouTube is just never easy to use. All of the equipment is back in the studio downtown, but obviously I'm still in quarantine for a couple of more days here. So let's dive into this because I know a lot of you will see this on the website later, and I'm not going to wait for people to jump over and have a chat with me. The Penguins, they played in the Toronto Maple Leafs pants. I thought for the better part of 60 minutes. Mike Sullivan said, well, we had some moments where we were on our heels. Well, that's every game against a good team, isn't it? I really thought, there was that extended period extended time at the end of the first period when Toronto really hemmed the Penguins in. There was that. There was a few moments in the second period. Otherwise, I thought the second period was very, very even, just sort of a back and forth kind of deal. And the Penguins played a beautiful road game. It was almost textbook. Now, there were a couple things I'm going to draw your attention to, and we discussed this in greater detail in the Pittsburgh Hockey Now report card. And by the way, if you don't subscribe to PHN Plus, do me a favor and check that out. That's where I really begin to dissect the hockey and get a bit more in depth. Look, anybody can write, hey, this guy scored a goal, that guy scored a goal at this time, and these three players assisted. Here's a couple of the relevant stats in the game. I don't necessarily find all of those kind of stories interesting, and neither do you actually, because all of my colleagues kind of whine that no one reads the post-game story. So that's where the report card and chalkboard was born. We get more into it. What the Penguins did different tonight that they haven't necessarily done as well this season. In fact, it might have been the tightest game they played. The gaps between the Penguins forwards and the gaps between the Penguins the defensemen and the Maple Leafs forwards. It's about that much. You noticed the Penguins were just all over their puck pursuit tonight. They were on the puck. Toronto didn't have time for a swift breakout with speed. They had to avoid Penguins to do so. And when they did get to that second layer, get to the up forwards, your F2, your F3 at the blue line, the Penguins defensemen were on them. The Penguins defensemen were not backing to the red line and letting Toronto come to them, to absorb or to defend. No, the Penguins defensemen were stepping forward at the blue line into Toronto. I thought Jay Caulfield did a great job on the broadcast, kind of illustrating that first goal, or I guess rather it was Jeff Carter's goal. I think maybe it was Jake Gensel's goal. Regardless, where Brian Dumoulin simply stepped forward, creates a turnover, Chris Letang reverses field in the defensive zone, and the Penguins have this, what became a 2-on-1. Just that quick, boom. As Toronto's regrouping, here came the Penguins. So comment, like, and share. Do me a favor, as I see some people are, in fact, finding the news stream. And I apologize for never getting YouTube correct, because it's just drives me nuts. Let's just put it that way. What was I saying before YouTube distracted me? Anyway, see, I guess in honor of the Penguins sale, behind me, I do have the Mario Lemieux bobblehead. And in honor of me, I have the Dr. Cox, what are they, a fungo doll or whatever it is. Just makes me laugh, because it seems rather fitting for me. The Penguins did get a couple of goals, both in the first period. Obviously, Jake Gensel and Jeff Carter's goal. The plays bore a lot of similarities. The plays were born of a good rush, created from a neutral zone turnover, created by evading the Toronto forecheck. Now, I also got into this in the PHN Plus report card, so I guess I'm giving you a freebie here, right? If you watched, especially in the first period, before Toronto adjusted, before Toronto tightened the screws a little bit as well, the Penguins were effectively using the cross ice. Oftentimes you'll see a Penguins breakout be like a little flock of seagulls, and they ran right up the wall. They ran so far. But tonight, it was about changing direction. The cross ice, the D to D, and then the cross ice back to center ice, right? It was the left side D firing it back to the right wall at the red line. And that evaded, oftentimes in the first period especially, Toronto had 2 and 3 forecheckers with their heels inside the Penguins' blue line. So by doing that, the F3 of Toronto was leaving a big gap if the Penguins defensemen could exploit it, and they did. Brian Dumoulin and Mike Matheson especially made pretty crisp cross-ice breakouts in the first period, because there was that gap between Toronto's defense, which was on the other side of the red line, and the 2 and 3 forecheckers inside the red line. By coming across that way, now the Penguins have scrambled the defense, because now the defense has to kind of change their angle and turn their hips and come over to the Penguins. And that's really what they did. Penguins had Toronto reacting to them, especially in the first 20 minutes. And I thought the Penguins did a lot in the last 20 minutes as well. Like I said, the second period seemed to me like a bit of a wash, but in the third period, the Penguins really had some killer instinct. They didn't let Toronto get speed. They didn't let Toronto get rhythm, and they didn't let Toronto set up an attack. Obviously, the 5-on-3 was a little bit of a whoops with both Czar and Zucker headed to the penalty box. But the game plan in the third period, I thought, was executed crisply and very well. Hey, Nathan McDonald, great win. I'm getting old. I have to take my glasses off to read? I'm just going to take them off, I guess, because the chat function here on the live chat is like font 4. Great win, was first live game back since COVID. So nice to be back in a crowd of 18,000 again to take a win. It makes the 2-hour drive a hell of a lot better. So Nathan, obviously, if you're a 2-hour drive, you either are in Buffalo, you are the other side of, is it Petersburg, about 2 hours east of Toronto, or are you north? Anyway, I should know this. My radio shows used to air all over the place up there. Toronto and the 2 places I was never in, Ottawa and Edmonton. It was just one of those things. The radio stations in both of those 2 markets just didn't like me. So maybe they had good taste. Maybe that was it. Edmonton and Ottawa have good taste. No. All right. So do me a favor. You can fire over those comments. I know I see a few more people finding us, and I appreciate you very much. I'm going to send this out one more time. Um, while I do this, do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to the channel right there down on your lower right. Okay. All right, that's the last time I will stop the show. Make sure you subscribe and do that. As I grab my notes here, I don't know if you want to talk about the Penguins sale at all. Josh Roundtree was hosting on 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh Saturday morning, and he had me on. That was kind of what he wanted to talk mostly about was the Penguins sale. And to be honest, I don't get a feeling that you care that much about the Penguins sale. I just don't get a feeling like Penguins land is that worried. A, because all of the news releases and everybody has confirmed that Mario is going to stick around. I'm going to be honest with you though. For what, 800? I've seen two numbers, 850, 900 million, either way. At that kind of money, I guarantee Fenway Group is buying just about all of the team. That's actually above every known valuation. Also, given that Sidney Crosby is 34, Evgeny Malkin 35, Chris Letang 34, and Stanley Cups are not in the immediate future, most likely, or if they are, it'll be the last one. And so, since there isn't this isn't the beginning of an explosion of valuation. This is kind of the end before it falls. So for Fenway to spend the money they are spending, I have to think Mario's getting a token share, not a significant hang around, have any official duties. I think he's getting the Prince Philip share. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see. Right when the NHL Board of Governors finally ratifies the deal, which I'm not quite sure when that's going to happen. I think we'll find out a bit more of those details. Maybe they don't want them out there. Maybe they just want us to think Mario is part of the owners. I ain't worried about the sale because you told me not to. Well, that's kind of crazy, Jay. All right, so JV, if you're going to do everything I tell you to, make sure you're vaccinated. We'll talk about some other things you have to do as well. So I kind of roll through my notes here. Let's talk a bit about Tristan Jarry as well. A week ago, I took a little bit of flack. I knew that the fans would appreciate what I wrote, but I also knew that the resident miserables, maybe that's what we should call them, the resident miserables, would not be happy with what I mean. Some people just will not be happy with a gold-plated, red carpet for them. Last Saturday, I wrote, it's time to acknowledge and respect Tristan Jarry as the Pittsburgh Penguins' #1 goalie. Look, from last March through the first 7 or 8 games of this season, Jarry had 1 regular season loss. That's it. He got to about, 18-1, 18-1-1, 18-1-2 over a 22-game span. A singular regular season loss. That's not by accident. I know you want to grab on to that New York Islanders series, which was a bit of a debacle. There's no two ways about that. But how many goalies have to tell you, yeah, I sucked in my first playoff series as well, before it maybe begins to sink in just a little bit? Jarry has something to prove this year, and I think he is proving it. And there is nothing that does more for a player's notoriety than a big performance on Hockey Night in Canada, which Jarry did tonight. One of the first questions out of the box for Sidney Crosby's post-game media availability was, in fact, about Jarry, as one of the Toronto media asked him, well, what do you think? Could Jarry make Team Canada? And Sid, in his typical diplomatic fashion, was like, I see him every day. He's really good. A lot of tough decisions, et cetera. I was kind of hoping Sid would break form and say, "Hell yes, add him to the team." But Sid is too good for that. The more important issue is that now the question is raised. Jari's not going to make Team Canada. That's just not going to happen. To be on that team, it's kind of like making the NFL Pro Bowl. Part of it is performance, but part of it is reputation. And a third part is the built-in owed factor. The game owes this player. We owe this player. You know, he might not be the best right now, but he's been the best, and we owe him that chance to go to Beijing. I must say, if I were a player, I would not be anxious to go to Beijing. Not in the least. Are you all following this thing with the tennis player Sheng? If you're not, go ahead and look it up. She has been a critic of the communist regime. She leveled some pretty serious sexual assault allegations against a big-time friend of the Chinese Communist Party, and now she is missing. You know, we yell at each other here in America and Canada a bit about human rights. You're a Nazi. No, you're a Nazi. It's time maybe we all looked at each other and said, oh, maybe we don't like each other right now, but at least we're not that. And maybe we ought to turn our attention to some of the places in the world that are making people disappear, that are making people, that sanction sexual assault, rape to shut people up. Maybe we ought to clean up the world a little bit, or, demand some of these big economies begin to pay attention to human beings as well. I'm old enough to remember what communism is. Forgive me. But circling back to the Olympics, there, even before the Sheng disappearance, she's a female tennis player from Hong Kong, which used to be British. Was it Prince Charles that gave it away, or Jimmy Carter? One of the two, before my time. But whoever gave it away should be flogged. Hong Kong was a great place, and now it's, now they're protesting. Now they're waving our flags, begging us to help free them again. I would not want to go to Beijing, and I would support Joe Biden if he does, in fact, boycott the Olympics. Absolutely, 100%. I would boycott Joe Biden. Or, I would support Joe Biden if he pulled out. I think he's going to go with a diplomatic boycott and let the athletes go. I don't know. I'd like to know that China also has COVID somewhat under control. If they're using one of those, Chinese knockoff vaccines that wasn't very effective, like Russia had one, the Sputnik, had like a 40%, 50% immunity. If the athletes have these garbage vaccines, and the country is, obviously China's not going to report actual statistics, especially if they're bad. I would have a hard time going over there. Quite frankly, I would have a really hard time. I don't care how badly I wanted to compete. Having said all of that, if our leaders actually find their backbone and pull out, I would love to see the IHF and the NHL hold some sort of international tournament for all the teams that have been assembled. Look, block it off. Do it in Vancouver. Do it in New York. I don't care where. Do it in North America so the players don't have to go very far. Lock it off for a few weeks and let the boys have at it. I'm all about that. Let me get back to the comments here. Hey, it's Walt Flanagan. Evening. Wish I had been able to see this game. Walt, as a hockey fan, I think you would have appreciated it. This was not fire wagon hockey, and this was not the big, exciting 5-4 game. This was the Penguins really playing a disciplined, do I say gritty? I would say natty. They were all over the puck tonight while playing, and they were playing in the Maple Leafs pants more than the Maple Leafs were playing in the blue pants. And I thought that was pretty impressive. So Fenway won't move the team. Well, no, they'll try to win. Let's see what they can say after after NHL approval. Yeah. Isn't that nice, though? This is maybe the first time the Penguins have been bought in their history since 1969, in which moving or bankruptcy isn't on the table. The game was blacked out up there near Toronto. Yeah, I would never advocate anything illegal. I'd get in trouble if I did. But there are I see people who are able to disguise their IP addresses, and I always wonder how they do that. So let's dive back into the game. We've talked a bit about Tristan Jarry. We've talked. I guess we didn't talk so much about Jake Gensel. For whatever reason, whenever I talk about Jake Gensel, it's like people are like, yeah, whatever. It's Jake Gensel. People like Jake Gensel, but I don't think Jake Gensel arouses much interest. It's like Brian Dumoulin. Shelley and I have joked we could write a story about Brian Dumoulin breaking into a burning orphanage, saving puppies and children for days, and like 8 people would read the story. It's just one of those players. Everyone's like, yeah, he's a good player. And when he talks or does something, no one reads about it. Jake Gensel's a little bit in that same category where I feel like he could score 5 goals one night. We'd do a Jake Gensel piece, and it would get like 6 people to read it. Such is the thing. You're always balancing the news versus the audience desires, right? That's what I have to do every single day. So let's talk about. I know one player you want to talk about, and that's Kasperi Kapanen. Do you think he's playing well? When you guys watch Kasperi Kapanen, are you watching a player you think is right there, ready to bust out, ready to go? I don't think I see it. I think I see moments, and I think I see Jason Zucker playing out of his skates. I think Jason Zucker is playing great. He is, he's on his game. I'd give him an A again on Saturday night. I think I gave him an A on Thursday night. Zucker is one of the best Penguins forwards at the moment. He's not scoring in bunches like you'd like to see a $5.5 million guy. You'd like to see him score at a higher clip. He's certainly getting the chances. And the chances he's getting are within feet of the net. You have to like what you see there. Now with Kapanen, I wonder if he's pulling back because Zucker is now the guy going to the net. I wonder if he's just fighting the puck. I wonder if it's a chemistry, if it's a head. I don't see. They keep talking about Kapanen getting chances. I see Kapanen getting a chance here, and then a chance here, but not consistent and sustained chances where you say this guy's just going to bust out. Here it comes. His chances seem to be a bit more surprising, so to speak. So from that standpoint, I think Mike Sullivan might want to tinker with the lines a little bit, maybe drop Kapanen down to play with Teddy Bluger, put Aston Reese on the right side, maybe. No, I guess you put Aston Reese on the 4th line. And let's see, if you did that, then who was playing on the left wing? I guess, Zarb, maybe Heinen goes up to play with Jeff Carter. Heinen, Carter, or Zucker, Heinen, Zucker, Carter, Heinen, it would be. Let me write that out. Zucker, Carter, Heinen, and then on the 3rd line, it could be Kapanen, Bluger, McGinn, because we saw last year Teddy Bluger or Kasperi Kapanen, I thought played very well against or with downline centers, with Teddy Bluger and Freddie Gaudreau on the 4th line. So then, then your 4th line does become Czar, Evan Rodriguez, and Dominic Simone, or whoever you want. Who do you think is the Jenga piece on the team? Oh, very interesting question. Walt Flanagan. The one guy, when removed, causes the whole Jenga tower to fall. I think at this point, it would be Tristan Jari. If Jari were to go into COVID for 10 days, do I think Casey DeSmith would hold the fort quite like they need him to? I don't. So there's that. I know you're probably not thinking of the starting goalie as the Jenga piece. Let's take a look. Let me think about that for a skater, because they obviously were without Sid for 10 days and they looked pretty bad. I might tell you it's Jeff Carter. I think. Yeah, I think if they pull Jeff Carter out of the lineup, then Teddy Bluger has to be the number 2 center, and Evan Rodriguez goes to 3, or Evan Rodriguez goes back to 2. And I wasn't really crazy about Evan Rodriguez as the second line center. Yeah, there were some games. He's a shooter, but the results, I think the team is so much better with Jeff Carter up there. So I think Jeff Carter is my Jenga piece if it's not Tristan Jarry. Although, if you really want to dive deep into it, look at the Penguins' record without Brian Dumoulin. As quiet as he is, when the Penguins are missing Dumoulin, their record is well under 500. They hold the fort without Chris Letang or anybody else, but take out Dumoulin, and they kind of fold a little bit too. Casey Deneau. Casey Deneau, yeah. I would like to see Louis Domingue get some NHL time this year. And that's purely personal. That's purely a rooting interest. I was excited for him. He was so excited in training camp to feel like he was finding his game. I hear good things down in Wilkes-Barre. So I'm looking for him to get some NHL time. I don't think he will unless DeSmith has a couple more rough games, but I'd like to see Domingue get a chance. Cap has the ability, but can't be consistent. Yeah, that really is a problem, isn't it, JV? Is that Kasperi Kapanen? Yeah, I guess I said that in a different way, didn't I? That his chances are here and there. There isn't a rhythm to his game right now. There isn't a consistent let's go where he's playing great games for 60 minutes. I think at his age, he's 25 now. Let me double check that before I put that out into the universe. There, Kasperi Kapanen is now 25. He turns 26 after the season. At 25, with a handful of years of NHL experience, these ups and these downs need to shrink. These hot streaks and ice cold streaks and getting benched and getting to the top of the lineup, this pendulum has to stop swinging. By the way, before you check out, make sure you like this little podcast and also subscribe as well. It would be. I think the Penguins. I think Mike Sullivan would like to see him smooth out this inconsistency as well. Did Gino tear his ACL? There has not been an official diagnosis. I blew up Malkin's Instagram picture. I wish I could show it to you here. I don't think I can just from the laptop show you my screen. But it was 3 scars, one kind of higher up, a good inch up on on the top right, and it was a vertical scar, and then he had 2 underneath, or one on the side and one underneath. So whatever it was not your little scope. It was not just your run-of-the-mill poke around and fix a little something. It was something serious. And obviously, since Malkin has been out almost 6 months now, well, actually, he played in the playoffs. And for everybody who kind of bags on Evgeny Malkin, realize he might have been their best forward against the New York Islanders on one leg. When Crosby was struggling and, Malkin had a torn to shreds knee, and what did he have? 4 points in 6 games? or did he have 7 points? Was it 4 and 3? Without looking, I forget. Such things aren't important in my daily life. So then he has the surgery come June, I believe. He's been out. He'll have been out for more than 6 months. That was. I'm no doctor. I'm not going to tell you it was a torn ACL, MCL, reconstruct. Who knows? And until the Penguins tell us, I don't think we will know. All we know is that it, obviously, what everyone else knows, it was serious. So we've gone through Jari, we've gone through Kapanen, we've gone through Gensel. I thought Sidney Crosby took a big step forward on Saturday night. I thought he was a little bit rough in the first period, a bit of a continuation of what we saw in Montreal. When Sid's off his game, he can be distracted in the defensive zone. He can try a little bit too much. He feels like he has to be Sidney Crosby sometimes, rather than being a little bit patient, letting the game come to him, feeling the force. Wait, can you see my? No, I can't see my Star Wars. Oh yeah, I guess you can see Yoda there. And there's my Mario Christmas ornament. There is the 1991. Wait, there it is. Oh, wait, I feel like a weatherman trying to do this right. That is the 1991 Indy 500 front row, the most prolific ever. I'm an Indy geek. And there, that trophy up top, that trophy was won in 2001 at a demolition derby. In my DJ days, I was Joey Buttafrago for the local Froggy chain when they first came back to Pittsburgh. I was the evening guy. They stick me in the demolition derby, and I finished like fourth. And that trophy is for the fan choice, because I was just hamming it up and having a blast. And I was up on top of the car posing and doing all kinds of silly stuff. So I won a trophy for being. And it's hard to imagine me as a ham, I know, but sometimes sometimes I actually like to have fun outside of hockey. So after the first period, I think Sidney Crosby settled in. I think Crosby, once they got the goal, perhaps that allowed Crosby to again settle into the game and play with a lead, knowing he had one. He had one to give, essentially, and that line looked pretty good. Although I didn't grade Brian Rust tonight. I put a question mark instead of a grade for Rust. I can't say that he's completely healthy or something is wrong. We are not seeing the very best Brian Rust. We're not seeing that fly end wall to end wall guy who's hitting everything, who's digging out pucks, who's just a gritty nuisance and putting pucks in the net. I think we're seeing like an 80% version of Brian Rust. So you have an 80% version of Brian Rust combined with an 85% Sidney Crosby. And I think the Penguins' arrow is consequently pointing up, but hopefully things click, because you don't want to see those guys struggle for very long. Aaron says, if the Penguins are indeed for sale, Aaron, it's a done deal. They've been sold. If someone buys them, Fenway did, which players would be first to be pruned? Aaron, I don't think any player is going to be pruned, at least during the season, unless Ron Hextall wants it to be. I'm sure that was discussed when Mario was saying, give me $900 million. I'm sure that, what are you going to do to the star players? What do you guys think? Fenway strikes me as a shrewd owner. Kind of like if you merged the Lemieux group and let's say, or better yet, if you merged the Rooneys and Jerry Jones, they bring stability. They bring an intelligence to the game, but they also bring a little bit of flair, a little bit of wild. Let's try this to the proceedings. Look, they upended Liverpool new ticket pricing, new ticket modeling. They tried to start that whole new soccer league, breaking away from the traditional English Premier League, which I know it's not hard to cause a soccer riot in England, but it damn near did. They've run afoul a couple times of fans over in Liverpool by not understanding or trying to think outside the box or try to go in a different direction from the way fans want the team to be run. Red Sox, well, Boston's crazy anyway. Boston sports fans, man, having a website in Boston, the Boston sports fans take the insanity of Philadelphia, right? Yeah, and they add a little bit of idealism to it. So it's crazy up in Boston. The Boston folks generally like the Fenway Group. They weren't so happy when Mookie Betts was allowed to walk. They're still talking about that, quite frankly. And the Red Sox are in a bit of a hurting spot. But the Red Sox also were one of the first big money teams, maybe the first big money team, to adopt the whole advanced statistics and Moneyball sort of approach. And I think therein lies maybe the thing for the Penguins. Will John Henry tell Ron Hextall to, double his analytics department and see if they can figure some things out there? How will it go? I don't think you'll see Letang and Malkin traded unless there's a big meeting, unless there's a summit, and unless all sides agree that's what's best. I just don't see a new owner coming in and yanking the rug, outside of that. A new ownership has to be somewhat cognizant that in hockey, especially, gate revenues are the biggest, or one of the biggest, or they're hugely important. Let's put it that way. The new TV deal might supersede gate revenues, where it used to be gate revenues were more important. I off the top of my head, I do think Penguins get about 45% of their revenue from the gate. You cannot come in and make wildly unpopular changes and expect to keep the gate, especially in this COVID environment when a lot of people are like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to sit elbow to elbow with people and come home with COVID. There is some of that. And we're seeing that across the league where tickets are a little bit harder to sell because people are like, you know what, I'm just going to watch it on TV at home. No, bro, I'm good. I don't care if tickets are $30. Hey, Jamie. Yes, I am the real DK. What can I say? What up? How are you? So I think from a PR standpoint, Crosby and Malkin finished the year, and there's at least a good faith effort to re-sign them. That's my hunch. That's my guess. Again, you just never know, though, right? You just don't know. I think that's a question they're going to have to answer publicly and on the record and with a straight answer. And I guess I should warn the Penguins PR now. When we get a press conference, I'll ask. And if we get a little tap dance shill kind of, well, we're going to look at all things, like, you know what you're doing with Crosby and Malkin. At least you have an idea. You've already investigated or thought about it. Can you confirm either way? I might push that issue because I think that probably is the biggest front burner issue about the Penguins sale. I mean, look, there's no arena situation. They're not going to raise the price of beer or nachos. So it's Letang or Malkin. All right, what else you guys want to talk about here? Make sure I got everyone's comments. Go ahead and hop over there. Wow, hey, look at that. I know it's a brand new channel. We only have about 430 followers. We used to have a few thousand. I've got to rebuild this, and I appreciate your help sharing it around and saying, hey, King Gursky's got the National Hockey League or National Hockey Now YouTube channel. So your help is appreciated. Liking the videos also helps YouTube promote them too. So I think we've rolled through pretty much all of the important players. The one thing I'll be curious about against Winnipeg, a a bigger team, if Brian Boyle draws back into the lineup. I don't think Evan Rodriguez was very good tonight. Uh, Rodriguez, Heinen, and Simone, they're a good fourth line against a soft team in which they can play some offense. When they are having to play some hard minutes, I don't know that that's a very good fourth line. Not just because they have to start in their defensive zone, not just because they have to play defense. And all three of them are capable enough. None of the three are bad defensive players, but none of the three are strong defensive players either. You know, where their primary focus is defense, and they're not physical, tough, strong players either. So, oh, and third thing, they don't kill penalties. None of the three kill penalties. So your fourth line doesn't kill penalties. That means your middle six has to kill penalties. And that puts a lot of strain on Teddy Bluger and Zach Aston Reese. And you have to put Jeff Carter out there a little bit. Maybe you have to put Sidney Crosby out there, which I don't think is right now. That's why I think you could see Brian Boyle draw back into the lineup against Winnipeg, because they are a bigger team. They're a stronger team, and you want a guy who's 6'6" who is also bigger and stronger and killing penalties as well. I'm a bit out of things to talk about with you. It was all pretty, I think, cut and dried tonight. How well the Penguins played. They really did cut the gaps to nil. They were up on the blue line, coming forward as Toronto tried to break out. Robert, watching from Tampa, still Pens. What in the world does that say? Oh, still STH, Pens season ticket holder. They're killing my resale value with cheap promotions. I think Erod needs to be in the top 6. His vision is incredible. He makes some slick passes. I'm not going to argue with you there, Robert. I think he's a poor man's top sixer, maybe a third line winger. I think the way he shoots the puck, he's actually got a pretty good shot. So if he gets more opportunity with the puck in the offensive zone, I think that's where his skills lie. Absolutely, no question. Good call on that one. Okay, here's the deal, kids. Last call, because my coffee is getting cold. Is McJesus better than Mario? Bite your tongue. The Canadian media is gaga over McJesus. I get that, and Connor McDavid is doing some things we haven't seen since Crosby and Malkin were 20 years old. No question about it. Crosby and Malkin began to play defense to win a Stanley Cup. McDavid isn't playing that kind of game yet. Tortorella was right. I don't care what all the media who just fell over themselves to defend Connor McDavid against the evil, dastardly John Tortorella were wrong. Tortorella was spot on in that if McDavid wants to be successful in the postseason, if he wants to be successful in the big games, he has to play better defense. He's got to almost prioritize that. And when you do that, when you're spending the energy on the other side of the blue line, other side of your blue line, you can't be, you don't get the same opportunities. You don't quite have the same legs to dance around for guys or to try some of those crazy things. And let's be honest, how often when a guy tries those crazy things, does it fail? They don't show a highlight reel of Connor McDavid failing 1-on-4 and the other team transitioning ahead of him. They don't show those sorts of things. So, no, look, let's not forget Mario put 199 points on the board one year. And let's not forget that without being able to tie his skates, he scored in 46 straight games. Let's not forget that that if any player was as good as Wayne Gretzky, maybe a hair better, or certainly individually better than Wayne Gretzky, it was Mario Lemieux. So that is it for me. My voice is wearing out a little bit. Uh, I think Sunday is day 10 of my COVID protocol. Sunday or Monday, I have to do the math. By the way, I'm not leaving the house until Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to sit down and figure it all out. I've been very good. I've hunkered down and I've just shaken my fist at those two guys who would listen. Seriously, don't be these guys. I won't say the very popular bar I watched the Monday night game at with a friend who doesn't have it. These two guys just come into the bar and they're all over everybody. Hey, they're shaking everybody's hand. They're patting everybody on the back. They're getting like at people's tables and they're hitting everybody. Like, I'm like, yo, and I'm like, hey, I'm vaccinated, but still, and you always know when someone's not vaccinated when they're like, yeah, I am, and they kind of stutter. I am too. Yeah, like, yeah, right. So here I am, kind of naive. A few days later, late Thursday night, actually after the Penguins game, I was still working. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel good. This is not good. And yeah, and that's what it was. So I think Monday is when I get out of jail. Instacart has liked me, and I appreciate everyone's support as well. It gave me some time to do some research. If you actually want some honest to goodness, some of the scientific data, some of the new studies, and some of the information is changing. Those of us who did get vaccinated back in the spring, our immunity, our effect, the efficacy of the vaccine has fallen to 45% on the Pfizer and 58% on the Moderna. There's even some studies and, legit academic, real scientific studies that say that you're even a bit more susceptible once the vaccine immunity sort of fades. And that's because your immune system is geared for the original COVID, and now there's Delta. Having said that, your vaccinated immunity is still 5.5 times better than natural immunity. That's just a fact. So there was all kinds of cool little things I was able to uncover and unearth. I tried not to beat anybody over the head. Hey, it's your choice. I can't force you. Own it. I wish I had a nickel for every person who would send me something. Oh, look at this or look at that. And I look at it for 2 seconds and I'm like, oh, well, here's the fatal flaw. Or I'll simply Google it, Google this claim, and somebody else has beaten it down for me and shows the, fact check false, or, there's all, it's like, just, it is frustrating, isn't it? That there's so much false information. And that's just the world we live in right now. Anybody can say anything, and if it sounds good, it goes. Hey, I know. I've been on the bad end of that, where I just off the cuff said something about, I've had a couple people like, oh, well, Kongursky's reporting there's a trade. I'm like, oh, no. I simply said it would make sense. And all of a sudden, I see I'm on every website saying that there was trade talks. It's the world we live in. So, hey, I appreciate y'all coming to hang out with me on a Saturday night. Go have some fun. Go chill out. Be safe. It was light up night. The tourists should be clearing out of downtown. So if you want to go have some drinks, now is probably a good time. All right, kids, I will see you. Cheers. Have fun.